Amazing connection revealed. How a janitor transformed the life of a billionaire's deaf daughter. Charlie rolled the mop across the scuffed wooden floor of the art room, his mind slipping away like water down the drain. It was just another day of honest work in the prestigious private high school, a place filled with privilege and dreams of brilliance. At 35, he bore the weight of his father's teachings, reminding him of the dignity in every sweep, every scrub. But with the absence of his father, the anxiety over bills and family burdens tightened around his chest like a noose. "Value your labor, and never forget those who lift you up," he muttered, trying to cling to the wisdom that once felt like a lifeline, today felt different. The air crackled with unspoken tension as he caught sight of emotion out of the corner of his eye. Lily, the billionaire's daughter, sat hunched over a canvas, the vibrant hues around her contrasting sharply with the shadow looming over her life. He recognized the familiar quiet of an artist trapped within her own insecurities. Riches surrounded her, but her shyness draped like a heavy cloak, leaving her uninvited in spaces of opportunity. She was a ghost in a mansion, hidden beneath the weight of her father's expectations. As he observed her, Charlie felt a pang of empathy. His heart ached for this young woman who hid such talent behind insecurity. But there was also a flicker of annoyance within him. Why did the world let people like her suffer under expectations? The dilemma twisted inside him like a knot. What do I have to offer her? A janitor has no place in her world. Before he could ruminate further, the rumor of an internship at her father's tech firm floated into the art room like a whisper that promised change. Panic flared across Lily's face as she wrestled with her fears, her fingers trembling against the paintbrush. Charlie washed the floor with renewed purpose, trying to shake off his own doubts. "If anyone deserves a chance to shine, it's you," he urged softly, stepping into her emotional chaos, spurred by the unconditional support that had defined his father. "Don't let fear keep you from your future." Yet, moments later, the weight of harsh criticisms and rejection seemed to tumble like a brick onto both their heads. Lily's father's cold words echoed through the space, humiliating her hopes. Charlie's gut twisted. He wanted to help her stand tall but felt powerless against the relentless tide of society's judgments. He hesitated. How could he, an unassuming janitor, offer her guidance when his own family struggled? His past loomed large, reminding him of the sacrifices that had paved his way. Just when he found the nerve to reach out, misunderstanding shattered their fragile connection, sending her spiraling away. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Charlie's nightmares morphed into anguish as he felt the divide widen. His struggles to connect with his own family reflected his inadequacy with Lily. Would he forever be just a janitor? Every attempt to lift her spirit felt futile, and in his despair, he revealed his own deepest fears: the longing to change the world for his father, to escape being invisible just like Lily felt. In tandem, their dreams pulsed with pain and hope, stuck within the confines of societal walls. An emotionally charged night loomed, filled with unresolved intensities. Would she unveil the piece that captured her soul's journey? And could he stand by as her father trampled all over her dreams? Charlie's nights had often been riddled with uncertainty, but now, each tick of the clock became a reminder of how fragile connection could be. His resolve began to morph into a determination he had never known before. Little did he realize that the very walls he felt trapped within were fabricating an opportunity, a chance to redefine his sense of purpose, not just for himself, but for someone else desperately in need of support. Early the next morning, he arrived at the school before the sun spilled its golden light across the campus. His mind buzzed with urgency. The vision of Lily and her canvas ignited a spark. The stifling weight of his father's absence and the relentless bills at home still pressed against him, but he pushed those responsibilities aside for a moment. He knew there had to be a way to reach out. He started with small gestures. While tidying up the art room, Charlie made sure to leave a fresh supply of brushes and a clean canvas in Lily's corner. Then, as he hummed along to the distant sounds of laughter and chatter filling the hall, He overheard students discussing a gallery night that was coming up, a showcase where students' artwork would be displayed, an opportunity for Lily to unveil her voice to the world. The demons of doubt stirred within him. What would a janitor know about art? But deeper down, he felt an inkling of belief. If he had spent years honing the value of hard work, didn't that translate into a form of artistry in itself? The realization struck like lightning. He wasn't just a janitor. He was someone with a uniquely grounded perspective on resilience and the beauty of small victories. Charlie found himself gravitating towards the art department even more. Every break he had, he observed the students, subtly absorbing their enthusiasm. Weeks trickled by, and soon he became a comforting presence in Lily's space. They shared glances. He offered a simple nod or a thumbs up whenever he noticed her working on her canvas. And slowly, as her eyes locked with his, a shared understanding emerged. The connection began to mend the division that had fractured them. Each day grew longer yet more purposeful. He incorporated affirmations into his tasks, reciting bits of wisdom his father once shared. Turn anxiety into action became his mantra. With renewed focus, he pledged to empower Lily, to help her step out of her shadows. Then came the day of the gallery night. The air was electric with anticipation, the walls lined with a cascade of colors that showcased raw talent and vulnerability. Charlie's heart raced as he witnessed the chaos of students, parents, and art enthusiasts milling about, an assembly of dreams on full display. That he spotted Lily standing at the entrance, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her smock, a picture of suppressed talent facing a daunting crowd. Recognizing the stillness threading through her, he approached her quietly, sliding beside her. "You know," he said, his voice low but steady, "they'll be looking for beauty tonight. Your work is bursting with it." Her eyes darted to him, a flicker of surprise followed by uncertainty. "What if they don't like it? What if I fail?" Charlie felt the intensity of his own fears seep into her words, echoing their shared struggles. "What if you shine? What if this is your moment to show them how incredible you are?" He sensed her hesitance still clinging to her. It was a palpable barrier woven from years of neglect and the weight of expectation. But for him, this was a turning point, a chance to confront the fears that bound both of them. As the first guests began to move towards the artwork, he gently nudged her forward. "You've got this, Lily. I believe in you." In that moment, it hit him his role as a janitor wasn't only about cleaning. He was a witness to the strength of perseverance, a definition of support. Charlie's heart raced as Lily finally took a deep breath, her determination igniting brighter than the gallery lights above. Could this be the moment of transformation for both of them? But before his thoughts could coalesce, he caught a glimpse of someone moving in the corner of his eye, someone unexpected. The tension in his stomach twisted tighter as he recognized the tall figure striding toward them, the unmistakable silhouette of Lily's father. What was he doing here? Was he ready to impose his desires yet again? The moment of reckoning was at hand. Lily's journey and Charlie's resolve hung in the balance, teetering on the brink of exposure. Would they find the strength to rise above overwhelming expectations, or would shadows rekindle the fears they had fought so hard to dismiss? The tension in Charlie's chest tightened as he watched Lily's father approach. The man exuded an air of authority that filled the space with an oppressive energy, overshadowing the vibrant colors surrounding them. While Lily had been ready to reveal her art to the world, the arrival of her father ignited a flicker of doubt that clawed at her resolve. He could see her shoulders hunch in, the familiar strain he had hoped to dissolve re-emerging in that moment. "Charlie," a voice called out sharply, tearing through the absorbing ambience of the gallery. The figure's eyes narrowed as if assessing every detail, igniting a flicker of defensiveness in him. Why did it feel like he was being measured too? "Mr. White," Charlie said, forcing confidence into his tone. "I didn't expect to see you here." Lily's father took a long breath, weighing the janitor before him. "I'd rather not have to see you here," he replied, his words clipped and dismissive. The confrontation settled heavily between them, the very essence of Charlie's purpose feeling threatened by the man's disdain. Charlie caught Lily's expression, a mix of trepidation and dismay. He had to act, not only for himself but for her too. "I'm just supporting Lily tonight," he responded, straightening his back. She's worked hard. Her art is incredible. Hard work doesn't mean it's good, Mr. White replied coldly, a hint of malice lurking in his gaze. What do you know about art or talent? Your life is not what this night is about, Charlie interjected, his voice rising slightly in defiance. The weight of Mr. White's disdain was suffocating, but Charlie felt a protective instinct surge within him. He wasn't just a janitor, he was part of Lily's journey and growth. Lily deserves a chance to represent herself, to show you how talented she is. He exclaimed, surprising even himself with his passion. He could feel the stares of those nearby drawn to the exchange, a balance of energy shifting as he openly challenged the man looming over them. As his words hung in the air, Charlie realized the true extent of the burden he carried, the need to advocate for someone who, for so long, had been silenced. In that moment, he could see the faintest shimmer of defiance gleam in Lily's eyes, reflected in his own newfound courage. Lily, he added softly, turning his focus back to her. You have every right to share your art, your voice. Don't let anyone take that from you, not even him. In the midst of the confrontation, Lily's father remained a steadfast figure of intimidation, yet behind him, an art student approached, drawn by the tension. Excuse me, she piped up. This is an open gallery night, meant for showcasing all our talents. You can't silence Lily. The shift in dynamics began to ripple through the small crowd gathered, and with that support, Lily took a deep breath. I'm here tonight for me, she said, her voice gaining strength. Whether he likes it or not, it's still mine. Charlie felt pride swell inside him, not just for her courage, but for the realization of how far they had both come on this journey. His own voice had transformed from a whisper to a proclamation of faith in Lily, and now she was rising to meet him in that resolve, yet, the showdown was over. Charlie was fully aware that Mr. White would not back down easily. The tightening in his gut warned him that this confrontation would force everyone to confront deeper, more personal fears, including his own about stepping beyond his designated role. Just then, the gallery's lights shifted, dimmed momentarily, and excited murmurs swept through the crowd, drawing their attention back to the center. A spotlight bloomed onto Lily's canvas, her artwork glowing vibrantly against the encroaching dark, but as those radiant colors bathed the room, Charlie couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation with her father was far from closed. This was their story, one of resilience and growth that had not yet reached its crescendo. The volatility of the moment reverberated within him, pushing him to confront not only Lily's father but the very expectations that had shaped both their lives. As excitement buzzed in the air, Charlie turned towards Lily, ready to support her in whatever came next. But what he couldn't foresee was the challenge waiting for them both, the challenge of navigating not just familial obligations but also their personal ambitions intertwined with societal threads too tight to unravel. He feared that even as her art began to shine, so too would the inevitable shadows of doubt, looming with the weight of expectations. A new confrontation beckoned, fraught with potential for both triumph and turmoil. Would they harness their determination, or would they falter when it mattered most? The spotlight was blinding. In that moment, it was as if the entire room faded away, leaving only Lily and her art stark against the brilliance of expectation. Charlie felt a tremor of hope mix with anxiety as he gripped the edge of a nearby table, grounding himself in the swirling atmosphere. He could sense the weight of eyes on them, a cacophony of judgment and admiration, both waiting for the next move. Lily's father, still standing as a sentinel at the edge of the gathering, crossed his arms tighter. The defiance she had just expressed echoed in the air, a challenge flung against the oppressive cloud of disapproval that had marked her life. But as she stood there, seemingly transformed, Charlie grappled with a more pressing concern: his own place in this defining moment. Was it enough to support someone else? Could he also step into the light? He glanced at Lily, her features illuminated in warm hues, awash with newfound determination. Her gaze seemed to pierce through layers of doubt, both his and her own. Charlie had always played the supporting role in the shadows, never considering that he might command attention. But now, as he witnessed her capture the audience, something within him simmered. A voice that had long been muted now whispered, urging him to step into a more pronounced role. Take a deep breath, Lily, he murmured, allowing the encouragement to fortify not just her spirit but his as well. As she nodded, he felt the stirrings of conviction surge. This was no longer just about her story, it was also about his journey, one that needed its own unfolding. As Lily approached her canvas, preparing to articulate her artistic vision, Charlie wrestled with the remnants of fear tethering him to obscurity. What if he could use this moment to reshape not only Lily's future but his own? The thought was both appealing and terrifying. He recalled the words he had just spoken moments before, the power they held. This wasn't just a defense of Lily's worth, it was a testament to his own contribution to the world. Damar. White's eyebrows furrowed, his anticipation for a misstep evident. Well, let us see if she can back up her words with something worthwhile, he sneered, his voice cutting through the charged atmosphere. In that instant, a thought ignited in Charlie. What if art isn't just about talent? He pondered fleetingly, recognizing a deeper truth about creativity: it's about the courage to reveal oneself, to be vulnerable. And as he formulated this revelation, he began to contemplate what it meant for his own narrative. Perhaps he, too, had something to convey. Before he fully processed it, his feet began moving toward Lily. He had watched her paint, observed her struggle with self-doubt echoing in his own life, and now he understood that by defying her father, he was, in essence, challenging his own limitations. This was not just a moment for Lily, it was an opportunity for both of them to redefine their paths. Everyone here loves her work, Charlie found himself declaring, his voice steady and resonant. Art speaks to the soul, it connects us, whether we have talent or not. What she shares tonight is a part of who she is, and that is inherently valuable. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Charlie grasped the profound significance of his declaration, not just for the spectators but for himself. He realized he had discovered a hidden strength, a capability to advocate not just for Lily but for himself as part of this shared experience. As the crowd began to applaud, Charlie felt the constraints of his previous self-image start to unravel. The responsibilities he had previously embraced didn't define him, they were merely chapters in his developing narrative. And now, standing alongside Lily in this pivotal moment, a latent ambition surged anew, a desire not to just support but to express, to create a voice for his own identity that had long been overshadowed. But before the applause could taper, Lily turned back to him, her eyes wide with surprise and gratitude. "You believe in me," she stated softly, the realization dawning like dawn breaking over night's horizon. "Yes, but it's more than that," he replied, his voice raw with emotion. "I believe in us. In both of us." But just as the two prepared to embrace the weight of their mutual revelation, Lily's father stepped forward, his features rigid, unmoved by the unfolding support. "You don't know what you're getting into, Charlie. This isn't a game." Charlie's heart raced. "It never was," he responded, unwavering but caught in a tense standoff, the conflict shifting once more like the tide. That familiar tightening in his stomach returned, but this time laced with defiance. As the applause reverberated around them, the spotlight remained bright. The immediate battle had shifted, but the narrative was far from resolved. Would they stand united in the face of relentless opposition, or would they buckle under the weight of others' expectations once more? In that moment of certainty, Charlie felt both the anxiety of the unknown and the thrilling pulse of possibility. They were entering territory where ambition thickened the air, each breath a potent reminder that personal growth awaited, just beyond the challenges looming ahead. But the true question was not just about art, but the ongoing struggle of proving their worth both to the world and themselves. What came next would define their future, and they both felt the exhilarating fear settle deep. The tension hung thick in the air as Charlie stood before Lily, the crowd's applause fading into an echo of uncertainty. The glare of the spotlight no longer felt like a source of intimidation but a call to action. He could sense the critical eyes surrounding them, but in that moment, he cultivated a spark of clarity. The confrontation with Lily's father was more than just a protective instinct, it was a revelation about his own potential, a challenge to shed the passive role he'd come to accept. When Mr. White's disapproval had cracked the atmosphere, Charlie instinctively felt more emboldened. The weight of his previous inaction pressed heavily on him now, igniting a resolve. He wouldn't be relegated to supporting roles any longer. The fight wasn't just for Lily's rights to express herself, it was also his own fight for self-definition and agency. "I refuse to be small anymore," he declared quietly but firmly in his own mind, as his eyes burned with determination. He focused on that promise, mentally rehearsing the ways he could bolster both their narratives while drawing strength from the grounding force of vulnerability around art and expression. Lily's gaze, still directed at her father, didn't waver. She looked to Charlie as something akin to an anchor in tumultuous waters, and his presence confirmed the growing resolve within her. No longer just a supporter, he would carve out a space not only for her but for himself amidst the storm of expectations. That reflection urged him to embrace a more profound personal exploration. As the murmurs from the crowd started to amplify again, Charlie turned his attention back to them. He visualized the room as an audience eagerly waiting for the next act. What they were witnessing wasn't merely an artist revealing her work, it was a poignant dialogue on the courage of revelation. The human spirit was universal in that regard, and he could help articulate that narrative. "Lily," he called to her softly so only she could hear, "don't just showcase your art. Share what shaped it. Invite them into your truth, and they'll understand it's more than just paint on canvas." She met his gaze with a newfound intensity, and he recognized an unspoken agreement between them. Her nod was all he needed to drive themselves forward, not just as individuals but as partners in this pivotal moment, leveraging the power of honesty against skepticism. As she approached her canvas, Charlie felt alive with renewed purpose. Each brushstroke in Lily's hands became a testament to both their journeys. Her vulnerability was transforming into strength, and he was finding his own voice within her radiance. The air crackled with anticipation. The crowd now held their collective breath as Lily began to share the stories woven through her creation. "Art saved me from silence," she began, her voice clear yet emotional. "For too long, I've felt the weight of my father's expectations, the fear of not being enough. But in this moment, I learned that self-worth isn't measured by approval but by authenticity." Her words coursed through the room, igniting a heat within Charlie. She was revolutionary in her honesty, and his heart raced with pride for both of them. Their combined essence echoed the depths of personal struggles and the innate desire to break free. Hope bloomed in the audience's eyes, and he sensed the shift from judgment to understanding. Yet just as the mood turned, Mr. White's reaction became ominous, drawing Charlie's focus back. "This is delusional," he spat, his voice raised, laden with contempt. "You think you can live outside the box I built for you?" With that confrontation came a decision point, sharp as a blade. Would they surrender to intimidation, yielding to the mold imposed upon them? Charlie felt the old familiar dread, but it now ignited a resolve fueled by Lily's courage. The contrast between her determination and the shackles of expectations became painfully clear. Charlie stepped forward, his heart pounding in synchrony with the pulse of the moment. Lily's art is not just a reflection, it's a beacon of her truth, he asserted, facing Mr. White with a defiance that surged from within. "It's time we both put ourselves on the line for what matters, and for who we want to be." The consequent silence was palpable, charged with anticipation. Charlie's articulation was not merely an act of support, it was a rallying call to embrace their vulnerabilities and stake claim in their destinies. Each moment now felt pivotal, bursting with possibilities, the outcome resting delicately on their next choices. The room swelled with a palpable tension, embodying both promise and peril. They stood at the precipice of transformation, where fear could either bind them or set them free, but as Lily prepared to respond, Charlie sensed that Mr. White's might was just a precursor to the real test ahead. The stakes had never felt higher, the deeper battle between expectation and authenticity was gaining momentum. What awaited them beyond this, both in confrontation and revelation, remained a chilling unknown. Would courage guide them forward, or would the shadows once again loom large over their envisioned futures? The charged silence stretched on, like a tensioned wire ready to snap, and Charlie felt the attention of the crowd coalesce around him and Lily. It was an electric moment, one filled with promise yet heavy with the weight of unspoken challenges. Mr. White's contempt dripped like poison in the air, and Charlie could feel its corrosive touch threatening to unravel the fragile bond they had forged at that moment. "Lily," he urged, desperation edging into his voice, "don't let him take this from you. This is your moment, our moment. Share your truth, no matter how painful." The vulnerability embedded in his plea struck a chord within him, echoing the sort of bravery he had always admired but had scarcely shown in his own life. All those years of fading into the background, of allowing the noise of other people's expectations to drown his voice, it all culminated, he realized, at this very confrontation. He was not just supporting Lily, he was fighting for his own right to speak, to exist boldly. Lily took a deep breath, her expression shifting from uncertainty to fierce determination. She stepped closer to the edge of the stage, embodying the very essence of courage. "I'm standing up for myself, Father," she declared, her voice ringing clear now, imbued with a newfound strength. "Art is a part of me, and I refuse to allow anyone to dictate what that means. Not even you." A ripple of surprise passed through the audience, and Charlie felt exhilarated. This was the spark igniting a fire. It was the first strike against the fortress that Mr. White had diligently built around Lily, a fortress meant to contain her and his own narrative. But now, those bricks began to shake. Charlie, too, felt the ripple of empowerment. He reached for Lily's hand, grounding and supportive. Together, they formed a coalition against the looming shadows, both determined to redefine their destinies. He pondered over what they had both been through: the quiet fights, the sacrifices, and the yearning for collective liberation. "What about you, Mr. White?" Charlie challenged, his voice steady but laced with an underlying tremor of emotion. "Is a life dictated by someone else's standards worth living? Can you really find joy in molding someone into the shape you envision?" "Your ignorance astounds me," Mr. White snapped back, his features contorted in disbelief. "You're just a janitor. What do you know about success and making choices? You have no idea what it takes to succeed in this world." Charlie's heart raced at the insult, but within it arose a flicker of resolve. He was beginning to see beyond the defiance and into the heart of what was happening here. The pain of being seen only as a janitor cut deep, reminding him of countless moments when he had allowed others to define him. But now, he no longer wore that label as a burden. It became a badge of resilience. In that moment of clarity, Charlie recalled the countless hours spent mopping floors while dreaming of a life beyond the confines of expectation. "It's not the title that matters, Mr. White," he replied, passion threading through his words. "It's the quality of character and the courage to pursue authenticity. I may clean floors, but I'm not ashamed of that work. I'm proud of every single moment I've spent learning, growing, and supporting those brave enough to express their truth." As confidence began to radiate from him, Charlie's voice carried an unexpected weight. The crowd seemed to shift with murmurs of agreement, and he sensed the tides turning. This became more than just about Lily or Mr. White. It was a personal journey shared, one that could resonate within the hearts of everyone present. "Art and honesty have always been more valuable than the facade of success," Charlie declared, emboldened from the stirring within. "It's never too late to step into our own light." Unexpectedly, laughter broke forth from the edges of the audience, a collective release of pent-up tension. Encouragement, in the form of subtle nods and murmured affirmations, reached Lily, bolstering her spirit. Charlie, however, was acutely conscious of the looming darkness that still hung over them like a storm cloud. Mr. White's face twisted into a mask of rage, and Charlie understood that while they had won this battle, the war was far from over. "What will your next move be, Charlie?" He heard Mr. White spit venomously as he cut through the budding camaraderie. The question struck him hard. It was a challenge, a test of resolve to navigate the precipice they stood upon. The path forward was fraught with uncertainty, and Charlie felt the pressure intensifying as he weighed the choices that lay ahead. The crowd watched, eyes wide and breaths held, as he prepared to respond. Would he retreat into silence once more, or would he embrace what lay ahead? Potential conflict, deeper truths, and the raw edges of uncharted territory. With the resolve of both their spirits raging within him, he realized he was ready to face whatever came next, not just for himself, but for the connection and authenticity they had unearthed together. What deep challenges awaited them as they pushed beyond the horizon of expectations into the unknown, and would they withstand the upheaval that followed? The moment hung in the air, charged with palpable tension. Charlie could feel the weight of Mr. White's icy glare drilling into him. Yet, paradoxically, it felt liberating. He had stepped out of the shadows into a light that illuminated not only his resolve but also his purpose. It was no longer just about defending Lily's art, it was about claiming his worth, challenging the narratives that had restrained him. Taking a deep breath, Charlie focused on the crowd, their faces mirroring a spectrum of emotions: fear, hope, empathy. This was his chance to provoke thought, not merely to defend but to inspire. He squared his shoulders, daring to look directly at Mr. White. You've built your empire on fear, Mr. White. But true success isn't born from dominance, it's crafted through understanding and encouragement. We've both learned that the real essence of living lies beyond societal expectations. His own words surprised him. He hadn't envisioned the impact he could have in this moment. The inner voice that had so long whispered self-doubt now demanded recognition. Here, he could forge a new identity, one rooted in integrity and strength. Mr. White's face turned a mottled shade of red, disbelief and fury battling within him. You think you know better than me? You're still just a man whose role consists of sweeping floors. You lack vision. Charlie resisted the urge to recoil. The familiar sting of being dismissed was sharp but less potent than it once was. Maybe that's the problem, he replied, voice steadying with each word. I may have started there, but I've learned that each sweep is a lesson in resilience. My hands have known hard work and have supported creativity, unlike your fingers, which only point and blame. With every syllable, Charlie felt himself shedding an old skin, stripping away the layers of insignificance he'd clung to for years. Each declaration was a strike against self-imposed limitations. For too long, he had let his job define him. Now, he reclaimed his narrative. Lily's hand tightened around his. The spark in her eyes told him he was not alone. They were battling not merely for themselves, but for everyone marginalized by insensitivity and rigid expectations. Watch as we break free, Charlie declared, his voice rising, resonating in the acoustics of the hall. We will not be sculpted into your ideals. We will carve our own paths, driven by passion, creativity, and integrity. Chaotic energy surged through the crowd. Some people clapped, others stood in stunned silence. It was a stirring of collective realization. Each of them bore their own struggles under the weight of expectations. If Charlie could defy his limits, perhaps they could too. Mr. White seethed, pressing his lips into a thin line, an exaggerated gesture of authority that felt increasingly hollow. Yet Charlie sensed the futility in his returned firing. This was not the man who held all the power anymore. The audience had witnessed something transformative: vulnerability exposed, familiar fears laid bare. With a sudden burst of clarity, Charlie seized the moment. If we can break the cycle, can you not envision a reality where authenticity reigns? He prompted Mr. White. You have a choice. Why let fear shackle your daughter's potential? Instead of walling her off, nurture the creativity within her. Lily's breath came in sharp bursts as she caught her father's gaze. For just a moment, hesitation flickered across Mr. White's features, a brief crack in his stoic facade. Perhaps he too realized the limitations imposed by his rigid beliefs, yet, the tumultuous storm still loomed. Charlie knew the next steps could plunge them deeper into conflict or propel them into uncharted harmony. The challenge now was to navigate what lay ahead, to delve into the depths of authenticity despite potential backlash. As the silence began to settle, giving way to murmurs and questions, Charlie could feel the air shift. A crack had formed, and now it was about whether they could exploit it or whether it would merely close again. What lay ahead for him, Lily, and even Mr. White was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the journey into authenticity was only just beginning. Would they harness the energy swirling around them, or would they falter in fear of the unknown? The murmurs began to swirl around Charlie like a living entity, each voice stitching together fragments of his conviction into a tapestry of collective reflection. The weight of the moment hovered, but with each second, he could feel a shift within himself, a persistent tickle of courage unfurling in his gut. This wasn't just a chance to voice his thoughts, it was an opportunity to reforge the very fabric of his life and, potentially, the lives of others bound by the chains of expectation. Determined not to let hesitation infiltrate his thoughts, Charlie meticulously contemplated his next steps. What if he approached the situation not only as a confrontation but as a dialogue? He recognized Mr. White may have been managing the legacy of his own dreams and fears, skewing his perspective on success and happiness. What if there was a way to reach him? With newfound clarity, Charlie slowly stepped forward. Mr. White, he initiated again, I know you feel trapped by the very empire you've built. But consider this: strength is not solely in control, but in the wisdom to evolve. If your daughter blooms in an environment of creative freedom, imagine the world she could create. Is that not a reflection of true success? Every word felt like an anchor, grounding him in a reality where he had agency, where he could influence not just his own life but the lives of others too, specifically, Lily's. He recalled her vibrant enthusiasm, the way her artwork leaped with life, infused with untamed passion. The stark contrast between their dreams was disheartening, yet motivating. Mr. White's reaction was immediate, his brows furrowed deeply, and the tightness of his lips returned. Charlie braced himself for a defensive explosion, ready to rebut any counterattack. Instead, Mr. White hesitated again, prolonged silence swallowing the air around them. Charlie sensed the distance closing, cautiously probing, "Isn't it worth exploring? The success measured not by your corporate gains but by the joy and fulfillment derived from authenticity and creation?" He was no longer just articulating an idea, he was inviting the other man into a dialogue, engaging him beyond their historical collision. The collective crowd watched, their hope mirrored in the growing intensity of the moment. Each face seemed to be caught in the riptide of anticipation, unsure of where the current would take them. This was a pivotal moment, and now Charlie recognized the power it wielded not just for the dynamic between him and Mr. White, but for his own self-discovery. With every syllable, he was crafting his narrative, but Mr. White's stormy brow had settled into contemplation. "You speak as if you truly believe this, young man," he finally said, his voice quieter, detached yet curious. "But what do you know about the world of expectations? What do you understand about sacrifice? My daughter is my legacy. I only want what's best for her." The admission struck Charlie. He could see the deep fissure of pain underlying Mr. White's authority, a man ensnared by his desire to protect, yet simultaneously suffocating the very essence of who Lily was becoming. "Let me show you," Charlie said without thinking, the words escaping before he could fully understand their weight. "Let us together explore what happens when fear is replaced by trust. If you allow her voice, you may recover pieces of your own." As Charlie stepped back, the thick air crackled with energy, each participant waiting for a decision, a turning point hanging on the proverbial edge of a knife. The blended feelings of resolve and dread twisted in Charlie's stomach. His next moves were pivotal. He could either succeed in this endeavor of influence or face the crushing realism of failure. Determined to harness this moment, Charlie fiercely inhaled, ready to navigate the murky waters ahead. He understood now that this wasn't just a battle against Mr. White, it was a deep dive into his own capacity for change. Yet as the echo of his last statement faded, nerves tightened around him again. What if Mr. White rejected the path Charlie was offering? The possibilities of despair clawed at the nest of hope he had nurtured. Charlie glanced sideways at Lily, and in her eyes, he saw a softness that fueled his spirit. She, too, was on this precipice of transformation, understanding that her passionate art could very well redefine her father's notions of success. But the next moment approached, ripe with uncertainty. What decision would Mr. White make, and how would it alter the trajectory of their lives? The truth awaited just beyond this juncture, buried somewhere in the heart of their tangled narratives. Could they exist together in authenticity, or would fear once again reign supreme? The silence lingered like a heavy fog, enveloping Charlie and Mr. White, each waiting for the other to break it. Charlie's pulse quickened. He could feel the weight of every gaze upon them, the expectations pressing down like a dark, suffocating cloak. He focused his thoughts, knowing that the outcome depended as much on his stance as it did on Mr. White's response. "Success is not a straight line," he pressed further, his voice steady but passionate. "It's a winding path that invites exploration. If we allow creativity and emotion into the mix, we build a legacy that has genuine depth. We might discover not only who Lily is, but who you are, too." The words haunted him as he spoke them, placing Mr. White's identity alongside Lily's. Charlie's own realization surfaced. He was helping not just to redefine their relationship but to challenge the very structure of Mr. White's self-perception. If Mr. White felt stripped of his identity through his daughter's choices, could Charlie guide him toward rediscovering its beauty? Mr. White huffed, his fingers curling involuntarily into fists as conflicting emotions surged. "You think you understand?" The bitterness edged back into his voice, but a flicker of uncertainty had begun to dance in his eyes. "You have no idea what I've sacrificed." Charlie felt a rush of frustration threatening to spill over, but he mastered it, channeling it instead toward understanding. "You're right. I don't know your sacrifices, but I see the burden they've placed on you. I see how they weigh down your dreams, too. And I can see in Lily's eyes that she refuses to accept a life shaped solely by those sacrifices. The crowd shifted. They were captivated by a battle unfolding, not of fists or accusations but of hearts and minds. Charlie took a step closer, emphasizing the urgency tangled within the moment. You have the opportunity to reshape your legacy, Mr. White. To nurture not just Lily's talent, but also to bloom alongside her in this creative wilderness. Imagine the healing that could breathe new life into what you both carry. For the first time, Charlie noticed the micro-expressions playing across Mr. White's face, a battle of emotion and reason. The man who had stood at the forefront of the corporate world now seemed vulnerable, grasping at straws. Charlie realized this was not simply about a father and daughter, it was ultimately about unveiling the fragility hidden behind an inhalable facade of power. Then, silence broke with Mr. White's whispered confession. What if I fail her? His voice quivered, sparking a deep human connection. What if by letting go, I ruin her? Charlie inhaled sharply, feeling the shift between vulnerability and the urge to retreat into defensive barriers. What if by holding on too tightly, you're the one who ruins her? Failure isn't the absence of success. It's the absence of courage to redefine and adapt. The revelation struck Charlie like a bolt of lightning, illuminating something more profound. These accusations were veiled reflections of his own fears. He had wrestled inwardly with failures, just as Mr. White had. Perhaps this, too, was a reflection of their shared humanity. Mr. White's expression softened slightly. It was brief, fleeting like a whisper of wind before the storm, but it was there. A tangible crack in the wall that Charlie felt he could push through. Maybe, he murmured, a glimmer of doubt lacing his uncertainty. Taking advantage of the opening, Charlie seized the moment with a swift but calculated move. Let's try. Just give me a chance to show you what Lily could achieve with your guidance if you step back and trust her instincts. For both your sakes. This was it. The pivot that could change the course of their lives. As Mr. White looked from Charlie to Lily, indecision washed across him. The room inhaled collectively, a shared anticipation of what choice would ripple into reality, yet the gnawing question burned in Charlie's mind as he awaited Mr. White's response. Would this moment ignite a transformative journey, or would it fizzle out like so many before? The tension escalated as he wondered, anxiously, what lay ahead, more than just a personal confrontation, but the revelation of hidden truths that could reshape everyone involved in ways they never anticipated. What would Mr. White decide, and how would it ripple into the lives they each aspired to transform? The days following the gallery night were a whirlwind of transformation for both Charlie and Lily. Mr. White's hesitant acceptance of their courage marked a pivotal shift in their lives. In the aftermath of that intense confrontation, the two began crafting their respective futures filled with anticipation and possibility. Charlie stepped into a new phase of purpose as a janitor, one no longer defined by the stigma of his job title, but by the strength of his character. The walls of their school echoed with his newfound contributions. With every mop stroke, he implemented small art displays featuring student works in the hallways, inviting creativity into the heart of an institution that had often been rigid under expectations. Words of encouragement flowed freely from him now, intertwining with the courage he nurtured within himself. His role became far more than the humdrum duties of his job. It morphed into a platform for motivating others to embrace their own authenticity. Lily, too, flourished in the warmth of newfound freedom. She picked up her brush with a relentless spirit, employing art to weave her narrative, one that emphasized vulnerability alongside resilience. The shifts in her father's attitude were gradual but reassuring. He began to attend her exhibitions, visibly softening to the colors of her creations, intertwining their shared journey with strokes of understanding. One afternoon, as she painted, she found Charlie pouring his heart into a canvas of his own. He longed to express the quiet struggles of his life, capturing the essence of everything he had faced. "This is incredible," she remarked, her eyes admiring his raw strokes. The process of holding a brush felt liberating for him, allowing him to indulge in an area of creativity he never knew he could access. In time, word began to circulate about the unassuming janitor and the billionaire's daughter. The transformation of their realities not only revealed the strength of community bonds but ignited conversations around redefining success. They hosted open workshops in the art room, encouraging students from all backgrounds to explore their creativity. The energy breathed love and acceptance. Now anchored in their newfound identities, Charlie stepped forward with confidence during school meetings, contributing ideas that transformed institutional routines. He learned quickly that anything was possible within the realms of belief and shared purpose. One meeting found him passionately advocating for the introduction of art therapy programs showing both faculty and students the positive impact of artistic exploration on mental wellness. Recognition soon followed their efforts. The school honored him with an award for his service and dedication to the arts, pinning a badge of recognition that felt nothing short of validation. More importantly, the acknowledgement was built on his concrete actions that inspired students to embrace art and authentically reflect their lives through myriad forms of expression. Each event filled Charlie's heart with warmth, bringing with it a slew of proud moments, his evolution marked by the realization that dignity lay in his contributions. He went from being isolated by societal perceptions of a janitor to becoming a cornerstone for student success, bolstered in personal prowess by supporting others. Meanwhile, Lily prepared for her first personal exhibit outside of school, one that brought together budding artists and seasoned professionals alike. It was a culmination of her journey sculpted from pain, joy, and transformation. The atmosphere promised an air of acceptance, allowing both the celebrated and the emerging to triumph together. On the night of the opening, amidst the buzz of creativity, Charlie stood beside her, heart swelling with pride as he watched her canvas steal the spotlight. Lily began to speak passionately about her journey, the unshackling of her fears, and how art had liberated her voice from the grips of expectation. Charlie stood beside me as a beacon of strength, showing me that even the most silent of voices can resonate with power, she uttered, turning to him with gratitude radiating from her smile. Around them, applause broke out like thunder, with each clap echoing a collective affirmation of their growth not just as artists, but as individuals redefining success on their terms. The transformation was complete. Both stood firm in their individuality, equipped with lessons learned and the reality of who they were becoming. Their story continued, redefined by openness to collaboration, embracing vulnerability, and inspiring others to do the same. This was their moment of resolution, one that marked not just personal triumph but a legacy of authentic expression taking form beyond barriers. Charlie felt an unshakable sense of fulfillment, echoing his father's teachings of valuing one's labor, demonstrating competence, and pursuing a future molded by one's own hands. As the night faded into an enchanting memory, he reveled in the knowledge that he had achieved more than he could ever imagined. He had taken the first steps not only towards a brighter future for himself but had also paved the way for others to rise. This was not merely their story but a movement of empowered voices determined to reshape the narrative around what it meant to succeed. Now is the time for you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach others who need to hear these powerful tales. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this unforgettable conclusion, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need this dose of inspiration. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.